Okay. Shall we start?
Sure.
Let's
Yes.
do it.
Okay. Welcome, beloved listeners. An amazing day. Here's an amazing day. The great, lovely greetings from the Baku. Today, we're going to discuss we're going to have amazing the workshop, and we're going to discuss it with the amazing people that's representing our ecosystem, and mainly they part and an important role in our ecosystem. So, the first of all, I want to introduce myself. I am Mubarak Shahbazli. I will be moderating this workshop, and I'm head of the Unique Startup Incubator, which we operate under the University of Economics. So I want to make a very brief introduction of my lovely speakers. So Raul Demalio is representing Sabah Lab, and Orhan Abbasov, he's also representing the Sabah Accelerator, and Farhad Abbasov, he's also representing the Sabah Academy, but they both work under the umbrella of the Sabah Lab. Okay, that's who we are, and I have very lots of questions, and this workshop is going to happen like that. We're going to discuss the many topics, and we're going to answer the many questions. And you can join our discussions by sending the questions. Do we have such the functionality, Mr. Ripkin, or anyone from the streaming back office? Can we get questions from the audience?
I think we'll be able to see questions on YouTube, Mubaris.
Yes, okay. So I can see that. So, okay. So we're going to start with my questions first of all. Yes, okay. Mr. Orhan, I want to start with you that, first of all, who is Sabah? And the answer for this question, and then move on to another ones. Who is Sabah and what he does, and then, okay, let's see what happens.
Okay, so thank you, Mbaris, for the question. I think the answer for that is very vast. I mean, Sabah Acceleration, Sabah Lab is under umbrella of Sabah Hub, and we recently rebranded and choose the path of becoming a hub. Farhad probably will give more information about the idea behind the rebranding together with Rahul. But basically, Sabah Lab is an operator in the field of innovation in the market, where we focus on multiple pillars that we believe that the innovation ecosystem stands on. First one is Sabah Academy, and that is focused mainly on developing human capital. And we know that in order to have successful startup, you need three main things: basically, human capital ecosystem, like infrastructure and investment. So if we go with the vision that this is a pipeline and it all starts from developing a human capital, then moving them to the in the right infrastructure to a fundable or milestones, then I think that's basically the whole vision of Sabah hub altogether. Farah, do you have anything to add about the hub part?
I think you explained it pretty well, Orhan.
Okay, so thanks, Orhan and Farhad, because we also as a university work closely with the Sabah Lab institutions. We send the startups, and I know that you're part of your functionality and your activities also linked with the academic the activities which you foster this kind of knowledge. I mean, the startup knowledge, entrepreneurship knowledge into the universities. So okay, then so Sabah Lab is back then it was just like accelerated. Now you do lots of stuff. You have academy, you have the incubation, you have an accelerated. It's important to me that you started as a first the accelerator, then moved. You added the other activities at the academy. So what was the need that you actually perceive it and proceeded like that? I mean, I'm actually okay. I'm answering this question. I'm asking this question to the Farhad.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that question, Mubaris. The reality was that when we started, we realized very quickly that the ecosystem has a shortage of startups, right? We had a lot of talented people. We had a lot of interesting ideas going around, but we didn't have people who really understood what it is and what it takes to become an entrepreneur and what sort of commitment needs to come with it. So we decided to take a step back and look at the first stage of the pipeline from what Orhan explained, which is the development of human capital. And as we are very closely connected with the Ministry of Education and have worked extensively with universities already, the easiest way for us to start solving that problem is to go to universities and start educating students on today's frameworks and understandings of entrepreneurship. Because we also understood that the education that universities give, even though they're very good, they're mostly focused on theoretical knowledge. And theoretical knowledge, again, is good, but the practical part is what is essential for teams to come into our incubator, accelerator, whatever it is, and start showing results very quickly. Another thing that we've realized is we spend a lot of time on this education part during the acceleration programs, and this time could be a lot more useful for teams to basically work on their product development and marketing strategies and so on. So the idea was born to go with our educational programs that we've developed with IE University to universities, to public universities in Azerbaijan, and try to spread it across as many students as possible. If we go directly into some statistics of what we've done in the academy so far, we've operated for one academic year only. So we started our operations in September. And so far, we have over 800 students that have gone through our course at universities. This academic year. What's important to note as well is that we've all been students, right? And we know that for students, the commitment towards education is sometimes a little difficult. So we've really focused on working with the universities to make sure that students get university credits towards their diplomas to give them that extra motivation to participate and delve into the content as much as possible. And we've seen that it brings very good results, especially on our side. We've also been doing a lot of adaptations to the content of the course to adapt it to our local mentality, to our local culture, and the local level of understandings from students. And we've been able to see very good results, very surprising results for us as well. We've seen students that have come to us with no knowledge of what entrepreneurship is or what startups are, or how startups are formed these days. And by the end of the academic course, they've presented pitch decks which are of such high quality that sometimes they're better than pitch decks that come from entrepreneurs that are on the market, that are on the corporate sector and want to skip the education part and come straight into the accelerator. So we see now, and we're absolutely confident that this educational, what's important is practical educational foundation is essential to the growth of this pipeline of entrepreneurs going forward.
Okay, great, Farhad. I'm wishing the best of luck to you for the incubation and as an academic part of your activities. So,
thank you.
Cool. Now I'm addressing this question to you, Rahul, because maybe they have the people that in this stream that just joined us, maybe they have no idea what is startup and etc. And maybe students are very interested that why it's important for the students, to have or to build the startups and etc. What is a startup by nature, and why is it important for the university students or youngsters, let's say?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on this panel. I think what is a startup is the kind of question where if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different answers, right? Fundamentally, right, there are certain core concepts that are universally accepted, right? A startup is fundamentally something that has to grow quickly, that has the ability to scale, right? Has the ability to scale and is often positioned as a solution to a problem, right? So a problem, and that's why even when people are pitching, that's the standard procedure. You talk about a problem, identifying a problem, and you look for solutions. Oftentimes, it is a technological solution or a solution that incorporates some form of new technology, or it can be a different business model, right? But what have you, the core idea is you have a problem, you're solving that problem, and you have a business that can grow very quickly. And that's what usually differentiates it from a traditional business, which looks for stable growth. Another point here is you will never see a traditional business with, say, 10 million revenue having hundreds of millions of dollars of valuation, right? Why? But startups might have that because the expectation is that they can grow very quickly. 10 million today can be 100 million in 5 months time,
Yeah.
right? So again, the question of scalability is very important. So for me, I try to be very, very simple in my explanation of what a startup is. A problem, you have a solution, it can grow quickly.
Yes. Yes.
Why? Because if you put more and more restrictions on what a startup is, people tend to try and fit those criteria. Oh, it has to be a technological company. Oh, it has to do X, Y, Z, and not focus on the basics, which is there a problem here? Are you solving people's needs? Are you solving a problem? Is it something that you can go, quickly grow? I think we have to keep the basics. When it comes to your second part of your question, what is specifically, why do we need young individuals, university students in this ecosystem, right? There are really two different perspectives or two different answers I can give you here, right? One, I think there are a lot of experiments, like anthropological experiments, like people studies, where people see that once you have somebody who has lived life and gone through the struggles, a lot of oftentimes they just accept those struggles and expect the way things are and just continue on with life. Sometimes that's why you need a new person with new, almost naive, right? Let's say, if I can say that, who can believe that I can change the system, I can change this problem, or I can find a solution. You need to have that almost, foolish optimism, I would say, to be able to actually do something. And for that, oftentimes you need a younger generation. That's one aspect. The other aspect is it's about time. Otherwise, I know Farhad and Orhan both answered about what Sabah Hub is, what it does. We've seen fantastic results from both Farhad and Orhan in terms of the academy and lab. What's one very important factor is time, right? These things take time, right? Silicon Valley, you might have heard of it today, right? Or some of us might have heard of it like 5 years ago, but it wasn't built in 5 years. It was built in 40, 50, 60 years, right? It takes time. Similarly, for a founder to have a unicorn idea or have the skills to execute an idea and make it into a unicorn, they need time. That means they need to start early, hopefully get a few ideas, potentially even fail, learn from those mistakes, and then create something new eventually that will grow into something big, right? So those two aspects, I would say, why the younger generation needs to be involved. You need time for them to grow. Two, they need to have that foolish optimism. Thank you.
Okay, so that is fully optimism, and also the time that they have to take into account while they're building the startup, or if they want to embark on a startup journey. So you think that you're saying that this should motivate them. Okay, and I'm changing this question, and then maybe I'm going to ask you to answer it differently. Okay, because I also face this type of the concerns or questions from the students, because I also work with the university. That usually people have to make their living. Okay.
Yes.
So since we don't have many success stories in the ecosystem in terms of the startup successes, and they ask why I have to be in this ecosystem, I'm a startup ecosystem. So what could be your answer to that question? I mean, as not Sabah Lab, but as a person who oversees the ecosystem, what's the motivation of a guy? Okay, they have to get a knowledge. I mean, they have to be expert in some field, but also what is the motivation to embark on the entrepreneurial journey, specifically in the startup, which have to move fast?
Sure. Sorry, is that question to me?
Yeah, it's also to you. Yeah, just change the question. Okay.
No worries. It's a very valid question, and I think there are, again, two aspects to this point. I think one, this is a very difficult journey, right? And there has to be a certain type of person who almost likes the struggle, right? It's you see, we have something called Startup Cafe, and we have a lot of events that we do in our community, um,
Okay.
and we have basically people coming in and telling their stories where they messed up, or basically almost like sad stories, but in a funny way. Now, why is this important? Because this it is a different type of individual or different type of thinking that is required to be in this space, right? Someone who enjoys the struggles and
Yeah.
enjoys the challenge here, really, right? So I think it's a personality trait almost, right? Being a startup founder, you'll often see the same kind of things that they are triggered by, the same kind of things that they're motivated by, etc. That's one. The other aspect is, Mubarak, I think the question or the outlook or the success stories for startups 5 years ago was
Yeah.
different from what it is
Yeah.
today, right? In
Okay.
the last 4 months, only in our ecosystem, we've almost raised more than a million. We've raised more than we've had startups raise more than 1 million manats collectively, right? In investment,
Mm.
we have about 59 companies which have reached fruition, quite a few starting doing MVPs. Quite a few of them are already generating revenue. Right? It's a
Mm.
different time, and this ecosystem is the same thing. It's the ecosystem itself is like a startup where you need time where it grows and it's struggling, and it is on the upward trend. Like it's called the hockey stick effect, right? Uh, and that's where we are right now. I feel right. We're at the place where it is very exciting. It's a very exciting time to be in the Azerbaijani ecosystem right now,
Yeah,
right?
great.
And that's why I think a lot of people should be joining in right now through Sabah Academy, through any other means, because this is the time when in 10 years time, 15 years time, people will remember these years, thinking that's when it happened.
Okay. So it's the early stage, so you actually tell them to take the advantage. Yep.
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay. Then I'm moving to Orhan. Orhan, I know you closely work with the universities. Um, what challenge you actually to face there that actually not blocks but actually slows down this startup building activities in the universities? What were the main challenges from your
Uh,
perspective? Also, Farhad can also answer this question together with
um,
you.
Yeah, I'll give a bit of information about mainly incubation side, like
Yeah.
what we get from the incubation inputs, and then I will ask Farhad to cover the academy part. And
Yeah.
so basically, in terms of acceleration and incubation, as you know, we already partner up with UNEX Startup Incubator Center, and this is a very
Yeah.
fruitful partnership. And when there is a mutual benefit that we see that goes and flows into the system, then we see that there is a beneficial, like that the university basically helps us. And
Yeah.
but there are some situations when we have to push our way through to get that partnership, to get that deal, because I mean, you've been part of startup, you've been part of incubation
Yeah.
as an individual, and you've seen what is happening at Sabah Lab, and that's why you have a trust. And then to earn the trust of other organization, it takes time. That's the
Yeah.
thing that we need, and that's the thing that we have less and less with each day, because the whole globe is progressing, and we are kind of we are already late, couple decades, I would say. And then when
Mm.
the pace that you have is less than the pace of the whole globe, then that gap is getting bigger and bigger. So that's the thing that we should be focusing on as a whole ecosystem. We should be unite, and we should help each other to go forward, but and to go faster forward. So and fail fastly. That's the thing that I like the most, is that, and I use sometimes in with the startups, is that fail fast, because if you fail fast, you will learn fast from your failures, and then you will progress
Very
faster. So that's a logical thing.
nice
And
catch. Okay. Fail fast. Fail fast. Okay.
yes. And regarding academy, I think on my side, what I've seen so far is that a lot of entities, a lot of universities, they are super helpful. We see that students they need some time to adjust to the reality and have a reality check. I mean, because it's something new that you go to their door and say, oh, there is an entrepreneurship thing, there's a startup, and this is completely different from a traditional business. Plus the as Rahul already covered, is success cases, but they're coming along as well. So if you would go to any other successful ecosystem, like I would give an example of Turkey, and you
Yeah.
will ask students like, what you would like to do when you grow up, the answers, among the top answers, you might see that I will do something about drones, I will do something about these and that. And that's because there's a success case and students can see that.
Yes.
In Azerbaijan, if you will go to the traditional educational institution, anyone, like any university, and you will ask students, what do you would like to do when you grow up? And the answer is simple, is that I would like to be a part of global corporations or local organization like banks, oil and gas sector, and etc. So if we are, as an organization and as ecosystem, you want to change something in this emerging ecosystem, then we should definitely focus on creating at least couple success stories. And then once
Yes.
those success stories come in, then there's always going to be an accumulated growth. But also one more example that I will give and then pass the word to Farhad is there is a thing called closed loop of innovation that I love
Mm.
and give example all the time. Is that so basically what you need for the ecosystem to progress is one, you need successful founders, right? So if there's a successful founder, then what becomes, he becomes an angel investor, or he opens up a fund because he has some cash and etc. And then what happens is that those organizations, they invest into new startups, and then
Mhm.
new invested startups become more success stories. So and that's a loop, it's a closed loop of innovation. So each time you go over that circle, you create more and more success stories, and that's the basically way forward that I see. And about support from universities, Farhad, I mean, you clearly have more intel about that. That would be great if you can share.
Okay, please, Farhad.
Yeah, of course. So Orhan already gave quite a bit of information, but I'll try to add some value to this answer as well, from my experience at least, and from our
Yeah.
experience as Sabah Hub. I think there's two aspects here, and these two aspects are something that we're constantly working against. One of them is we all know, and especially you probably see this as well, Mubaris, as being part of a university now, is the education sector, not just in Azerbaijan, globally, is one of the slowest ones to adapt and to modernize, right? That is a global problem, and there's reasons for that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I understand the reasoning behind it, but that's the reality that we have to deal with. And when these young guys, young entrepreneurs, come to university administrations and say, look, we can teach certain subjects maybe even better than your professors do, of course that creates certain barriers in the eyes of university administrators. And I think Orhan mentioned that as well. It's when we have to start building trust with the university administrators to show them that, you know, there's actually something in this. Another part of, let's say, a barrier that we're working on is the mindset. Again, going back to Orhan's answer, the mindset of allowing yourself to fail in order to learn is something that is not practiced very much in educational institutions globally. And that is quite a big problem, because students are scared of making mistakes. In startups, it is detrimental to make mistakes, because that's how you learn, that's how you move forward. So working on changing that mindsets in students as well as university administration is, let's say, a challenge, but we see a lot of progress in it as well, thankfully, because as Rahul mentioned, the ecosystem is growing. There's more and more success cases. People see it, and they want those success cases to come from their universities as well. So thankfully, we're starting and working in the right time when universities are becoming more and more open to these innovations.
Okay, Farhad. Okay, so both of you mentioned that there is a trust the issue in the partnership, maybe both of you. But from the first day, Orhan knows me that okay, we are always in a partnership because today we are a bit beyond of this partnering or the rivaling or competing each other individually because we have to build this ecosystem and take it from the another level. Maybe after that point, okay, we can start to compete over the startups to make more successful and then become the more let's say the prominent in startup building. Okay, this trust partnership is the first issue you mentioned. But what about the innovation stuff or innovation, the knowledge of the universities? Is it enough to have this kind of activities inside of them? Farhad and Orhan, you can answer this
Yeah.
question.
I think we are as Farhad already mentioned, we are as an like as a industry and education system. Like if you, it's kind of philosophical question. So if you go back into time and look at what was education 2000 years ago, it was the same. You had chairs, you had teacher delivering some knowledge, right? So the content changed, and but the concept of teaching, it's not evolving at the moment, and that's why when Farhad said that education is the system that is less prominent to change, that's true. But let's be clear about one thing: is that I've seen it a lot, and probably Farhad can confirm that as well. I mean, the university management, the deans, and etc. They are super open for that innovation. They know they want to do something about it, and they are open to suggestions. But this is the basically reality, global reality, is that the whole education system is not evolving at a pace that world evolves. So, I mean, look at us. We started like I'll go with example of myself or Farhad or
Yeah, please.
we are more or less the same generation, right? So I started school at when I was like it was 2002. We had no cell phones, and the data internet wasn't as accessible as it is today, right? Today it's more accessible. The information sources are getting more and more, and that's why what we see in a local startup ecosystem and globally, edtechs are the main area that people are doing business. HR tech and edtech, because we experience the things on ourselves, and we all have been hired or fired at some period of our life. But also we go through education throughout our whole life, right? So that's why edtechs and HR techs, I would say, is the two main industries that are startups are getting from like in Azerbaijan especially. Regarding application of those solutions in universities, that is big question because right now I think like when you have institutional system like like universities and etc. That has roots going back for a couple hundred years of the same methodology, teaching, and blah blah blah. It's getting harder and harder to break that established system. So all the innovation that comes in within the education struggling with the same problem, and no matter it's where it can be
Yeah.
Azerbaijan, Uganda, it can be US or UK. It's the same thing over and over again because this has been the reality for past couple hundred years, and then you come and say that I will change it. It's not that easy. Even if you are open for innovation, it's not that easy because you have to change the staff. The staff should be open to get the innovation. Students should be open to
Yeah.
get the innovation. I mean, let's look at this way. If you have students studying at school for 11 years with the same methodology, like they go, they sit on the desk and they listen to teacher,
Yeah.
they go,
For the
they
last 20 years.
yes, and then after 11 years, you come and say, hey, in university you're gonna have different methodology of teaching or different course or whatever. So that's tough for that student to get adapted to that. So that's why I think that this needs some generational change as well. So I think ideas are there, but the timing is more important than ideas at this stage.
Okay.
Farhad, do you have anything to add on top of that?
Yeah, I think that we need to understand that universities, even public universities, of course, it's not their main core ideology, but they're also in a way businesses, right? They need to attract students in order to get money, in order to attract funding, which they're going to use on research and development and attracting better professors and so on.
At least to cover their costs.
Exactly. And I'm really happy to see that our local universities, public universities especially, are starting to understand it better and better, that innovation works a lot in their favor. So the more innovation there is in the university, the more their reputation becomes elevated. And the more the reputation is elevated and better, it's easier for them to attract the number of students and the quality of students that are going to be beneficial for them in the long run. I don't think that people and university administrators were looking at it in such a manner for the past 3 decades, but I can really sense a shift in the mindset of university admins as well in this case. So that's very good news for all of us, I would say.
Good news for the whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for that, Orhan. Why I actually moved into this kind of questions, because just the same as this Rahul mentioned, we firstly identify the problem. And then towards the end of this workshop, I'm gonna ask your solutions to this kind of problems that universities or younger students they face in building startups journey and in the journey of the building startups. Okay, so we kind of know the problems that actually happen in the ecosystem, and Rahul, I'm asking this question to you exactly. So you are a marketing guy, as I know.
Sure.
So let's say when I talk to the university guys, the other university staff. Okay, it's easy. It's easier to launch an incubation or accelerator, but usually incubation. But for sustainability part is an issue, because they have to have a staff or incubation guy to manage this kind of processes. Or beside of that, university does not know which segmentation or which positioning they have to take to build a startup. For example, I'm only focusing on the digital products. Okay. That means the vehicle or device technology or any device startups, I'm not really into it, because it's very time consuming to build them. It's very costly. So what kind of model you actually offer or could you advise to university heads or universities, even to make them more interested to the process? Oh my God, what happened?
I don't know. Am I still audible?
Did you get my question? Because I lost it.
Yes. Could you just repeat the last 25 to 10 seconds, 15 seconds?
Okay. What marketing position or any this kind of segmentation rules would you advise to the universities to take them in order to building this incubation or this kind of innovation activities inside of them?
Okay.
So how to approach startups, what type of startups or what type of segmentation they have to target, and etc.
Sure. So this is a relatively, I wouldn't say simple question, but it has a very multifaceted answer, right?
Yeah,
and I would want to take some time to really go a bit deep into this discussion. I think you talked about one of the problems is that it's very difficult to build this within universities, and of course it's easy to just have a room and whatnot, but the question is the pipeline has to flow, right?
Yes, amazing. Yeah.
Right. So the first point I would say is, it's when making these incubators, accelerators, etc. It's very important to know, okay, what's next, right? Because you're creating a pipeline where at the end of the day, it's a literal pipe, right? If you have water and it has nowhere to go, the pipe will burst. So I think before starting, you need to have a very clear understanding of where the pipe flows to eventually.
Yes.
One of the reasons why Sabah Lab became Sabah Hub, as one of the reasons why we decided to do that is because we realized we needed a more holistic approach, right? So we have academy, incubation, lab, we have studio, and we have fund, right? Fund that's coming soon. Basically, trying to address this problem from all sides and to make sure that at no point in the pipeline is there a blockage, basically. So, answer to your question that you can take inspiration from what we've done is making sure it's communicated clearly, or you have a clear understanding of where your pipeline flows into, right? So that's why when you're talking to people, you're saying, yes, come to, for example, in your case, right? Unix Startup Incubator, we will help incubate. We are doing this together with XYZ partners, not necessarily Sabah Hub again, right? We are at the ecosystem is, as a lot of our leaders in the ecosystem say, are in its infancy, or it's so nascent. I would use the word, specifically that word, is that we cannot be competing against each other. That's not possible.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it doesn't matter who you partner with, but you have XYZ partners, and when addressing students, guys, you come here. It's easy. You're close by between lessons, whatever. You build something here in the beginning, and when you're ready, take this to XYZ partners. Right. So have a very clear understanding of where you're going.
Certainty. Okay.
Exactly. Right. At least you have a direction. Two,
Amazing.
you talked about industry. At Sabah, when we started, the one thing we knew was, you have to understand, we started this 2 years ago when we were in discussions with the Ministry of Education, Science and Education now. The reality is, the one thing we knew for sure is that we don't know anything, right? And I think usually that is a good mindset to have when you're doing something new.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why we kept industry. We were industry agnostic. We still are industry agnostic. So that means we can we go into any industry. But as Orhan mentioned very well, is a lot of the startups that we're getting are HR techs, ed techs, and slowly off late we have some agro, health, and fintechs. But again, right, we're still all around the place. Why we did this is because we, as an organization, had some strengths, right? There were some schools, I don't know I have my business background is from the education sector as well. So we had a lot of health tech, ed techs, based on what our strengths are. But still, we kept it, more or less, we entertained all. At university, I think it's important that you lean into what you're best at, right? I think you should be open to all startups, because at the end of the day, even like you said, you're a digital products, right, Mubaris? Right?
Yeah.
Even if someone comes in and tells you, Mubaris, listen, I've got this prototype of this physical thing I'm making. I know you're into digital stuff, but you still have the same concepts, like understanding what my addressable market is and understanding how to make a product scalable. You have to make it cheap. You have to have a good SOP, whatever it may be. The concepts are similar, right? So you can still coach these people.
Yeah.
Right. So that's not a problem. The question here is, at university, I think you should really lean into the industries where you're really, really good at.
Yeah, amazing.
Either because of your alumni network, or because of your research equipment, whatever it may be, right? So if you have an oil and gas university, you go into that, right? If you have an IT, or if you have oil and gas, you go into energy. If you go into economics and you are looking at digital products, is a very good place perhaps. Why digital products? Because digital products often are business model startups where they tweak something in the business model and it becomes scalable, for example, right?
Yeah.
So that'd be a good place. In a nutshell, right? Focus on what you're good at as a university and lean into that. And all the other startups, I think, will still benefit from having a strong incubator there, because a lot of the concepts are still interchangeable. I hope I answered your question. But
very lovely points. Very amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Rahul. Okay, so be clear about your flow. I mean, this is startup building, and do it where you're good at. It's also effective. It's effective in the using the resources, and also its efficiency. I mean, cool, amazing. Okay, so Orhan, okay, let's say at a university. Okay, we talk too much about the universities. Let's talk about the students. Okay, can you describe your flow? I mean, let's say Sabah, that actually a guy just participated in the Sabah Academy within the university, and then where it's going to end up. in your flow, and it's open to everyone. It's accessible to every student in
Yes.
Azerbaijan.
We are, Baris, thank you for the question. I mean, we are totally available for anyone in Azerbaijan, any point of Azerbaijan. We have a location in Azerbaijan, but we have in Baku, but we have participants from Turkey. We had experience with Georgian team as well. So it's not just Azerbaijan students or Azerbaijan startups, it's also global startups. I mean, there is an example of Ziva, fintech company from Turkey that already raised $50,000, bootstrap 50,000, raised more than $95,000. They relocated their office to Azerbaijan, R&D part, to be part of Sabah acceleration. So, I mean,
Okay,
those are
that's your success.
also,
Well done.
yeah. But I mean, if you're talking about the startup as a unique individual student of UNEC and what's going to happen, and which, by
No
the way,
matter.
I'm
Student.
also a student of UNEC, ex-student,
Nice to hear
alumni.
that.
Yeah. So basically, what's going to happen if you are alumni of Sabah Academy? We will help you to ideate in our incubation program that's going to be open after August. You will be able to ideate, build your team, build your problem solution statement, build your prototype, and etc. And then we will use some techniques that we tried a couple times, working uh, better and better each time, is design sprint and everything like that. So you will be able to have a product in 1 week. And then what you do is just like go high and high, is basically get traction. Then if you have an MVP, then you can also apply for acceleration. And if you are part of acceleration, then we will help you to fundraise, to pitch at Baku ID, to do a lot of things. But basically, the beginning of the journey is always starts at university, and obviously we have some school children as well doing startups. Like we have someone 15 years old in acceleration. We have 12 years old incubation participant. So I mean, we are kind of like, we see those like individual cases from school as well, but from alumni of Sabah Academy, there is a path to incubation and then acceleration eventually.
Cool. So you help them to build product, you help them to raise funding in the accelerator. If they become successful, you also take them to the studio, not studio, but let's say the fun. You have also fun, okay? It's opening soon. So you also have such a privilege to actually offer them. Oh, amazing. Cool. Okay, nice. The great opportunity for students. Guys, you can use them. Okay, take advantage. Okay, Rahul, Orhan, Farhad. So, just in a nutshell, because we are moving the end of this workshop, we still have time, but we are about to end it. So, we discussed challenge, and sometimes we mentioned some solutions or recommendations to the university has and etc. So, in order to generalize, what solutions each part of you, for example, you represent the Sabah Lab Rahul, I mean, from the top, and you as a Sabah Lab, Orhan, and you the academy. So what solutions you can actually give here to the students? I mean, to build their startups, for being an active in the ecosystem. So what might be your 3 top solutions or recommendations?
I hope the guys don't mind if I start off with this one.
Yes.
I think this is my answer is going to be a bit biased because I'm a private educational player in this ecosystem. But in my opinion, universities have to partner more with private educational providers, because the private educational providers have the agility to adapt to market realities a lot faster. And they bring with them a lot of practical experience that the academic faculty of university might not possess a lot of the times. Especially in Azerbaijan, we know, sure, there's a lot of visiting professors and so on that come from the corporate sector who have that practical experience, but we also have a lot of professors and deans and so on who have been in academia their whole lives, and they lack this modern practical experience again, which is so necessary in successfully first changing the mindset of students and then giving them the knowledge that they need to quickly accelerate through the steps of startup development. So if and we see this in flourishing ecosystems in Europe, for example, they work very actively with private partners, not just education, but also corporate partners, because the information and the experience exchange that comes from those partnerships cannot be substituted by anything else, unfortunately. I'm happy to say that we exist as an academy because this mindset is changing in our public universities, and people are becoming more and more open to these private partnerships. But I'd like to see a lot more of them because we see a real effect, and we want to spread those effects to as many institutions as we can.
Farhad, if I may add on top of what you said about private players, I mean, I'll give a nice example from Stanford University. I mean, the design thinking is quite well taught in modern day design schools and academies and blah blah, right? But how it came up to be a thing is basically Lloyd Kelly, when he closed his company, he opened an educational like the organization as we know it today, the school, design school, and he proposed to open it under the brand of Stanford, but he would teach at Stanford to the students. But it's a private player essentially. So that's what usually big universities go for as well, because that was something unique. There was no previously example of design thinking and of everything like that. So Lloyd Kelly prepared a course of that, and he as a private player started operating under Stanford University. So I mean, a lot of good examples about even IE business school and etc. They partner up with the private players to help them to teach it. And when we say about private players, it's not just Sabah Academy, or like the good example is basically Code Academy, Baku Design Academy, and all those courses that can give next generational skills, not fundamentals. Obviously, fundamentals are better taught from university stuff. I mean, if you're talking about finance, if you're talking about that kind of thing, then it should come from as a fundamental knowledge. But when we are talking about how to become a product owner, that's a skill that you need to have in order to be in future employable, and that's a goal basically of any university, to raise talent that might be employable in the future. So private players can give that extra, I don't want to call it certification, but extra skills that might help in future for being a better hire for the big companies.
Okay. Thanks, Juan. Nawal, what
Thank
is your
you.
top solutions, recommendations?
My just like in real life, Mubarak, let me just say, my life is very easy because of Orhan and Farhat, because what they do, and I just get to take the credit at the end. But similar in this case, really, everything I wanted to say, Orhan and Farhat really covered, right? I would just sort of like four things, right? One is, right, definitely bring in more players who are into the curriculum, not just as a activity, because no one takes that seriously, right? If it's
Yes.
incorporated into the curriculum, that things like how to become a product owner, like that's a very important point, right? That is, and honestly, we see this today, how important being a PO or a PM, like project management, these kind of skills are I just cannot stress enough how important those skills are, right? And how sought after they are, right? So focusing on those kind of skills or those kind of professions which maybe traditional academia doesn't recognize even, right? I think first we recognizing the positions that have been created in the last 15 years, and really looking into ways how we can develop that at universities. Most probably that'll be by bringing in people from the private sector to come and have joint courses to really give in that perspective. Uh, Having said this, I really want to take a moment here and really applaud the effort that has been put in by a lot of the universities to modernize. Like just take your example, your Unix startup incubator, right? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you would not even dream of having that kind of a mindset even because at the end of the day, for someone to have a unique startup incubator, that must have come from the top, saying that, hey, this is important, right?
Yeah.
That really is commendable. So I think I really want to take a moment to really congratulate and sort of give my support, saying that things aren't as bad, or things aren't things are in the right direction. 100%.
Thanks, Raul.
As I
Thanks,
said
Raul.
before, we are in the most exciting time to be in this ecosystem. We really have to acknowledge that. One more thing, and my really final point here is, a university, any university, in my opinion, is as strong as its alumni, right? And really, UNEC, I'm sure, or other universities really need to leverage their alumni network today. I'm not sure, because I mean, when Orhan said that he's a UNEC alumni, that's when that struck me. Orhan, before joining us, he was a fantastic PO, right? So, uh, I mean, you should have seen it, how happy I was when I. Whereas I'll tell you, one of the best decisions of my life was making sure that both of these guys are part of the organization. And yeah, basically, but then these guys are your alumni, right? So having these guys coming in and telling people who are 50, 18, 19, 20, saying that, hey guys, you might have heard of this XYZ profession. It exists, it pays really well, and you have amazing opportunities going forward. Right? Someone has to go and tell these 13, 19, 20-year-olds and create role models, right? And relatable role models. Because I've seen, Mubarak, every time I've seen some speaker talk about Elon Musk in a group, I've seen everybody lose interest immediately, because he is not relatable. I mean, dude, trust me, I like the guy. I've read his book. All of that is great. But every time you talk about him here, no one's like, obviously I'm not him. But then you bring someone who's from UNEC or whatever university, and then you say, hey, this guy's super successful and he started just where you were. Nothing is stronger than that.
Okay, because it's not next to you. I mean, it's more realistic. You can touch it.
Exactly. Relatable heroes, right? I think I'm a big believer in creating heroes. And we talked about marketing before, right? For me, marketing is basically storytelling, right? It just a story told in different ways, and every story needs a hero or heroes, if you will, right? And I'm sure the people we have on the panel here are the future heroes of the story of our ecosystem, but we need a lot more, and I'm sure a lot more will be coming from the universities, especially the places where Farhad and other private players are also bringing in their know-how and really trying to cultivate this mindset change as well. Anyway, so in a nutshell, that's what I think. Great hero.
Thanks, Wahel. Another great points. Okay, so this is my conclusion, but not my, let's say, my last stuff to tell you. Okay, we want to spread this knowledge. Okay, this startup education for the university students, for the whole youngsters in Azerbaijan. Okay, if you want to change, if you want to just apply to the universities, and this is the change, and for the change, it should be supported by the leadership. And I'm very thankful that from the first day, this kind of activities, innovation activities, from my perspective, UNEC, it's supported by the rectorate, and I'm so grateful to them. Okay, because they really believe in the innovation, and each time they say it's a priority for us. For startups, is a priority for us. Okay, so if anyone, as a universal education or educational institute who wants to create this change in the universities, they should approach this kind of as a priority list, and they should be fully supported. Okay, that's a personal outcome, my approach. Let's say general recommendation. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Raul. Thank you, Farhad. Thank you, Arhan, for being here today with us, and thanks for your nice and amazing insights. And just its name, today's workshop topic is the fostering students, startup education, and insights into the future strategic steps. Okay, I think we have lots of insights now. If they want to make this, if they want to add this to their strategic plans, okay, take them. And once more, this is a very clear call out to the whole educational institutions that, okay, all these people, all these innovation partner players, they're ready to partner. So just take it. Okay, that's enough. Thanks, Raul, again. Thanks all of you. I'm really thankful for being part of this amazing workshop. Ilkin, do we have any questions?